So we're going to get this mobility session started. It's our first one since we've been just under a week of self-sheltering or staying shelter in place quarantine type stuff with everyone working from home. So anybody that's joining us or gets to watch this later, since it's our first one and we don't have a ton of feedback yet to work with on what people are really craving, we're going to start out doing it based on the fact that we've done a lot of body weight type movements in the last few days as far as the programming from home, and there's going to continue to be those, but as people are renting out some more of our equipment, getting stuff delivered, that'll start to maybe gear more towards whatever programs you guys have done in the day or two leading up to our Thursday session and our Tuesday session. But for today, we're going to focus on hitting a little bit of each of the major areas that we hit with body weight movements. So we'll start out going through some shoulders, then pecs, thoracic spine, which is the middle upper back, the low back, the hips, and then a calf and ankle kind of focused one. So it's just going to be a little bit of an activation type of move that we'll use a lot in rehab settings to heat up and stabilize and get things warm, then followed directly by a stretching type move that allows that particular body part to then maybe gain a little increase in motion. This is a lot more for mobility, and the word mobility is truly about creating mobile movements through stabilizing so that it moves well together. When it comes to just stretching or straight up stretching, if you are someone that likes that better, instead of activating and then stretching, I'd suggest maybe finding some stuff in yoga to also go on top of your programming that we're doing, because they are better at making sure that you're not going to pull a muscle or stretch something or hurt yourself in those types of moves. I personally prefer dynamic stretching and mobilization, which is why we're offering this. For those of you that lift, it's a really great alternative to doing just static stretching type yoga things. Again, any of your practice that keeps you busy at home right now, while we're all trying not to go nuts from being sheltered, is a great idea. So if you have questions along the way, we'll answer those at the end of each movement that we do. I'll just open it up if someone has any concerns before I move on to the next move. After that, we'll be going to online resource. So we're going to post the recording so that if you can't make it any of these days, it's available for you. And then for future ones, if people have stuff that they have requests on and feedback, we'd love it, because it's for you guys. This is what this is for, to keep you sane and healthy. So, all right, so start with, we got a few of us joined here, which is great. If you guys could all make sure to mute your audio. And again, I can come back after each section that we've gone on and make sure no one had any major questions in between. And at that point, you could mute or unmute. But if you could mute it while working, that way, if something you're doing makes noise, if you have a dog in the background that's barking, anything like that, any of your sound coming through could mute out what our stuff is saying or make it patchy for everyone watching at home. So go ahead and put it on mute while you're doing things. And then if you have questions, feel free to unmute and chime in when we get to certain spots. Okay? So we're going to start with the shoulders. To start off with the shoulders, let's get it a little bit warm so we don't just start cold. Seems super simple. First couple of things we're going to do is just reverse palms up. You're going to get the back side of your delts warm, right? It's actually really surprising how much this fatigues out our arms. So you're going one way and then the other, straight and back. Good. Let's go ahead and open up into circles. We're going backwards and then switch directions. So this might seem super silly. Some of you might already feel like your arms are really heavy, that your neck's getting pulled on. It's a sign we maybe need to do some things like lift our arms up more away from our computers and keyboards. Just saying, right? And then lastly, we're gonna go all the way up overhead. It's like jumping jacks standing in place. So just working through range of motion of your scapula, of your clavicles, of your shoulder joints. Awesome. So they should already feel like they're getting pretty warm, okay? From here, we're then going to, saw me holding this towel earlier, we're gonna actually do an activation in reverse. Some of you have done this when you've been at the gym with me in certain classes. You're gonna grab like a towel, something small. If you don't have one, don't worry. It's more a cueing option to help keep you accountable to how you're keeping your core engaged, since I'm not there in person to come poke you in the rib cage to make sure that you're keeping it braced. Our big goal that we're going to use this for, I'll do it a little closer, then you'll see me demo on the wall, is to put this kind of right around the base of our rib cage, right? So if you can feel where your ribs kind of stop, you're gonna put it right around that spot. Then when you go against the wall to do this movement that I'm gonna demonstrate, where you're pulling your shoulders up and off the wall, if we go and try to reach back and we are overusing our back, or letting our ribs and abs go, so we're not actually mobilizing our shoulders, but we're just mobilizing our low back, and it arches, that towel will fall away from the wall. Okay, so it's a really good way to make sure that we're not just leaning back away from the wall or arching away from the wall and not actually using our shoulders to do the mobility movement. Okay, so it's just a good cueing technique to use in place of a coach that's there to sit and poke and prod you for your cues. You'll feel a lot more activation through the base of your core. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go up to my wall, okay? This is gonna be in that spot I mentioned. Against the wall, we're gonna stand all the way up, toes to the wall. Core is tight and braced. We're keeping that rib cage tight against the wall, arms up overhead, shoulders locked out, elbows locked out, so no bend in them, and you're gonna keep no bend. And you're gonna try and pull away from the wall. So reaching up high, pulling away. Reaching up high, pulling away. Okay, so it should be pretty easy. Go ahead and do, let's say 5 to 10 more of those right now and work on it for a sec. So some of you, if you were able to walk away and find a wall, hopefully you could still hear me. But while you're doing those 5 to 10 more, depending how slow you are or what works for you, your big goal is that you're staying tight through your core. You should feel it kind of in your mid-back and your shoulder area. So we're pulling up and back, getting some retraction through. This is a great one to do before your workouts. When you guys have stuff that Angie and Greg put in for technique work with PVC pipes, if you're doing overhead work, things that really involve not just using your shoulder for everything, but getting the whole stabilizing portion open and warm, okay? So that should have been enough time for you guys to do 5 to 10, depending on who you are. Because that's a really important one, I want to know if anyone has any questions about that one, and I want to know where each of you felt it. Where did you feel the most fatigue or work in your body doing that move? Maria, let's go for you first.
So I felt that one through my mid-back, which we know
Great.
is the area, yeah.
Yeah, perfect, which is great. Anyone else feel it in a certain spot or have any questions? Okay, looks like everyone's feeling good about it, getting no feedback. For those of you at home that watch this later, again, mid-back should be kind of the area you feel it. You might feel it in traps. We tend to be overactive, but if you can hold that core tight, this is a great one to do. And I'd recommend doing several sets. So let's go ahead and move on to the stretch that we're gonna do. We're gonna spend some time in it, okay? So we're gonna do a stretch through the back side of our arms. We're gonna be on the ground for this one. So if you need to take your camera with you so that you can see, do that now, but we're gonna be down on the ground on our side. So let's go ahead and get there first. Give you guys a few seconds. Next thing you're gonna do is your arm's gonna be out and underneath you. You're gonna really stretch it forward and then sit yourself back so that your hips are nice at a 90-degree angle from your torso. Knees are out at a 90-degree angle from that. And then you can always use a pillow if you need to, but your head's gonna be relaxed as much as you can. So if you're someone with neck issues or anything like that, maybe snug that towel you used underneath or a pillow or something soft to hold it neutral, that's fine. Okay, but this is about the shoulder. Okay, next you're gonna bend that arm up so it's in kind of that 90-degree angle, and then you're gonna drop it down just a skosh from parallel so that your elbow is just slightly down to make sure we don't strain the shoulder at all. From there, you're gonna take your hand, you're gonna go on top, and you're gonna gently push your hand to where it starts to feel like it's stopping, and then you're gonna roll into the shoulder a little bit. As you push and roll a little bit more over that stacked shoulder, you're gonna feel a stretch in either the top of the shoulder, you might feel it a little around on the back side, you might feel it down into towards the elbow a little bit, depending on where you're tight. So you're gonna push and then relax it back. Okay, so we're gonna hold for like 5 seconds at a time. The next time you might be able to get a little bit further. And then you're gonna push a little bit and you're gonna try and match that resistance with the hand underneath. So you're just kind of getting to a stalemate, Mexican standoff status, of one side to the other, really pushing in and then relaxing. So it's a little bit of a contraction, but it's not super muscle mass based. And go for it again. We're gonna do 2 more. So I'm doing 5 with like a 5-second count on each. And then I'm going to switch sides. Good. Let's switch sides. If some of you are going a little slower than this, right? Or if you want to like practice this and then take notes to try again after, again, this is just going to be some input so that you guys can use these stretches going forward. Get a little bit accomplished today. Those of you watching closely might see that, for example, on this shoulder, I don't get very far in that internal rotation, and that's okay. That's a limit I have one side to the other. Something to maybe notice about yourself as you're working through some of these moves. Right, so go ahead and work on the other side. Good, get that stretch. Let's do 2 more. Sometimes you should be able to get a little further towards the end of these. Good stuff. All right, now I urge you guys, I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to go back to your wall with your towel. You're gonna try that same core brace tight, right up against the wall, arms up and straight and reaching back. You should feel, especially if you're someone that felt a little bit in the top of your shoulder, or if you felt a little bit in your trap area, you should actually feel that you maybe get a little bit more of that sensation in the mid-back when you do it. Maybe even a little bit just feeling of looseness in the joint capsule itself of your shoulders. So that's our big goal. So go ahead and try that now. Give you a few seconds to do that. Maybe a set of 5 to 10 again, depending on your limits and how much you're holding and bracing. For those of you that are finishing up with that, something else to think about going forward that you can always do on your own is if you get really comfortable with doing those, you can start adding in a PVC pipe if you have it. We have them here at the gym if you don't have one. But otherwise, a PVC pipe, a broom handle, a Swiffer sweeper handle, anything like that, you can always use that. And when you go up against the wall, you still brace, arms reached out and holding that PVC pipe, and then trying to bring it back. It adds another layer of something that you can torque against, and it holds your arms accountable to staying straight and in line with the other arm. So that can be another one that you do, reaching up, core back and tight, away from the wall, and then also against the wall. You can use it as well. Okay, so there's that one. Now we're gonna go into just a quick warm-up, one we do all the time, and then I'm gonna add in some pec stuff. So let's go ahead, if you have a PVC pipe, you're gonna go up and overhead and around with some pass-throughs, some around the worlds. It's a pretty obvious one. Some of you do it all the time, but we don't want to forget to do it just because we're at home. Okay, if you don't have a PVC pipe, you can use a band if you have it. You can use a towel that connects together, or you can always just go through the range of motion because you probably haven't today, right? So something to think about doing and going around in those circles, okay? The next one we're gonna do that's really simple and it's based more on mobility than strength, but it gets stuff heated up more specifically, is called a clapper. Sounds silly, but it's an easy way to remember what it's called. It helps you remember what you're doing. That's gonna be to loosen up your pecs by heating them up and through so that they actually want to relax. Because when we do this all day, which a lot of us are, these get shortened and really tight. So what we're gonna do is activate them without needing to use weights or doing push-ups that might hurt some of our shoulders to do so, okay? So what we're gonna do is you're gonna lay down on the ground. I'm gonna lay this way so you can see at an angle, okay? Your arms are gonna be out to the side. You can put them a little bit lower than straight out front of you, depending on your mobility and comfort. Shoulders are gonna be down and back. From here, you're gonna pretend that your hands are on a big giant easy button. If you ever watch Staples commercials, right? They have a big giant button. You're spreading your hands as wide as you can, palms face up, and you're trying to push your hands on all points of that easy button. So you're pushing down to the ground. You should feel a little bit of contraction in the back of your shoulder blades, in the middle of your back, pushing down into the ground, hold for about 5 seconds, hold, 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 okay, and then relax, bring them up, and now you're gonna have your hands wide and clasped together, basically, and you're gonna press the hands. Again, you're not bending your arms, you're not pushing through your biceps or anything else. Your hands nice and long, your hands are squeezing and pressing against each other, like they're trying to squish something between your hands, okay? And then you're going to slowly relax and bring them back down. You should feel like your pecs got kind of hot during that one, got a little toasty, felt some work. Go ahead and press your palms, or excuse me, the back of your hands with palms up, oh, into the ground, and relax. Bring them all the way up, make sure you're breathing through this, and press those palms and fingertips all the way around together. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Straight arms, and then relax down and push them back. Okay, let's go through 5 more of those on your own time. Okay, so pressing back of the hand into the ground. Count for 3 to 5 seconds in your head, and then bring them up and squeeze them together. You should start to feel like your pecs are actually getting pretty warm, that you're getting pretty good use out of them. And when you let go of that squeeze, they should feel like all they want to do is relax. And it really helps to open up, again, through the shoulders and the pec. And it heats it up in a way, if you're starting to get some pinching for push-ups, if you're getting some pulling in the front of the arms, sometimes doing this allows that pec minor and major, these guys right here, to really release a little bit before you go and do all your body weight pressing exercises at home, like push-ups and all that stuff. It just helps loosen away from the chronic tension of being in this position, especially while we're stuck inside and on our computers and phone devices a lot, okay? All right, so finish that one up. Go ahead and take your time. I'll give you guys about 20 more seconds to have gotten all that stuff in. And then don't get up off the ground. When you're done, you're gonna roll right over into a scorpion. We've done these before, but we're gonna go over the finer points of it because we have the time right now and it's making you spend some time on doing it right or finding things about you that you maybe didn't realize were super tight with doing it, okay? So when you're done, you're gonna roll over onto your belly. I'm gonna start demonstrating it and you'll be able to look at me. I'm gonna go this way so you can see what the top half is doing, okay? When we go down into the scorpion, again, this is more for a pec stretch. Things that I want you to pay attention to when you put one arm out is that your shoulder is still open and back. We don't want it rounded forward. We don't want your hand coming up off the ground either direction. You want it nice, flat palm and your shoulder nice and set back, okay? So we're in this position. When you lean into it, you can use that other hand to help roll you over. You're gonna use your leg to add a little bit of tension and resistance as it twists back. Okay, it's not about how far you go for the lower back and how far you reach the leg. I actually hate when people try to show how flexible they are because a lot of times they're getting that flexibility through letting the shoulder joint collapse forward. I hope you guys can see that, but collapsing forward like this. And we want it to stay back so we feel that stretch. Some of you might need to go up at a higher angle so that it's a little bit gentler on the shoulder. You might, again, not twist very far, and that's okay. You can add a glute squeeze on this. So squeezing your bum so that you really get a good stretch across the front hip flexor. If you need to, you can relax your neck, okay? Whatever you can do. So let's go for that. You can hang out in that position for a little bit, or you can do one set on one side, alternate to the other side. Play around with that one for me. I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds to do it. Okay, again, we're trying to move through this so it's informative, but I also want you to use this as your chance to do it for the day. We're getting through lots of things and hopefully you'll be able to go back to this and use it or remember some of the finer points of these when you do them yourself at home. So go ahead and keep working on it. You guys got another 20 seconds to keep working on alternating back and forth, paying attention to the angle of the shoulder, the stretch across the chest. And then we'll take any questions or anything that people might have felt that didn't seem right or that they're confused on for those last couple moves. All right, let's go ahead and bring it back up and in when you're finishing up. Is there any questions or any concerns that anybody who's currently on had? Because if you vocalize it, it might help people that watch this later. Everyone feel pretty good with it? Angie, any questions since you get to audit?
Sorry, I had to figure out how to turn my sound back on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
No questions because I missed the first half of it, but I'm going to rewatch later and do it.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. All right. And then she'll give me feedback if she sees something she'd like to know. Again, for you guys, this is basically a teaching moment along with getting some of your mobility in for the day. So you might spend more time doing each of these moves when you're doing it on your own time, or if it's a mobility session before or after you're doing your lifts. Okay. So if you have questions, now's your chance to ask it and give you ideas of things to ask for in the future of moves you might want to see or areas you might want to stretch. Okay. Thanks, Angie. Okay. Next move. Next one is one of my
Thanks, Austin.
It's why I have this bench out because I don't have a couch here. You might have a couch at home. You could even use probably a chair as long as it has a deep enough setting. You might have a bench at home and that would work fine too, or your bed. Okay, this is called something that's similar to something called like a Cressy curl if you wanted to look that up. We're going to do a little bit of a take on that. That's just easy for people and translatable when it's just via message. But if you needed to look that up for further, you can. Similar take to that. Some of you might even know it more similarly in yoga to like the first part of the top half of a dolphin. If you know what that is, we're going to do two different options. If you have a PVC pipe, a broomstick, anything like that, I would love for you to grab that now. And you're going to do this near a couch. You can even do it on a table if you had to standing, as long as your back is really nice and supported. Okay. I'm going to demonstrate that now as a way to really deepen for your upper back and some shoulder stretching. Okay. So different ways to do it. Everyone has a different take, different input, different opinion. This is just one way. There's plenty of other ways to do it. Like I said, if you want something more specific to the person that it's named for, go ahead and look up the Cressy curl for Google or something and see some more pointers on it, okay? But we're gonna take our PVC pipe, or our band would work fine too, or a towel. You're gonna have it together like this, okay? And you're gonna be on your bench on your elbows, okay? From there, there's several options of where you kind of place your knees, but we're just gonna go with a nice simple neutral one that's just in front of, being underneath your hips directly, so that you have some space to actually rock a little bit or move as you go through this. Then you're gonna try and stack your elbows directly in front of your shoulders, okay? So we don't want them way out to the side, if you guys can see that. We want them kind of right in line with that. You might feel a little tension on the back side of your shoulder to do this, and that's okay as long as it's not painful. From there, right, you can have your arms straight out, that's fine. You're gonna drop your head down and through, letting your back sink, but it shouldn't feel like it's all coming from your low back. Okay, you're gonna sink down and through. You're gonna really try and push your head and push your chest down towards the ground, and then you're gonna add a curl with that PVC pipe, like you're trying to take the PVC pipe to the back of your neck. When you do that, you should actually feel a decent intensity increase into the mid-back and thoracics, because we're doing stuff with your upper body, your scapula and everything else that's allowing mobility to happen through the thoracic spine, because you wouldn't be able to accomplish it otherwise. Hopefully you guys can still hear me doing this. Go ahead and play around with doing several sets of those curls, sinking down, really pushing through with the core, pushing the chest deep into the ground. I'm interested to see what you guys think of this one. It's one of my favorites. I'll give you guys another 30 seconds to play around with that one, sink into it. If you don't want to do a bunch of sets of curls or the curl portion hurts your shoulders, you can hold it at more of a neutral, but really think about sinking through the shoulders, okay? While you're working on that one, if you're someone who doesn't have a PVC pipe, right, and you didn't have time to go snag a towel or a band, you can do a version of it similar to the top half of when people are doing yoga, when they're doing the top of the dolphin. You can either do it on the ground or on the bench. On the bench, you're just gonna put your hands together, making sure that your hands can tap your shoulders across. That'll give you a good distance reference. Sinking back with the knees just in front of the hips is an easy measurement, allows for movement. You're gonna sink your head down, and then you're gonna bring the thumb back through here. Head is tucked a bit more. If it was in more of a yoga type setting, it's called a dolphin, and has the head actually going into extension. So you're now on the ground. I would always suggest starting on the knees. If you're someone really flexible, you can come up into kind of that down dog status, but it's the first parts to transitioning to that. Hands are here together just like they were on the bench. Head's tucking back, you're pushing up and through for that. And then as you sink your rib cage and everything down towards the floor, you look up with your head. So you're looking up and forward. And in order to do that, you will feel that translate down to that thoracic spot. Again, if you're skilled enough, which you guys can get some entertainment from me because I'm not flexible, you can always bring up the top of the hips and sink down and through that position. So any of those should be allowing you to really hit through the thoracic spine. Are there any questions on those movements? So those are options. Again, if you need to watch back this video later, if you end up traveling anywhere or quarantining in a place where now it doesn't have some of your same equipment, you know, okay, well, I can do this one on the floor. This is how I modify it. I can put my head up versus through, those types of things, okay? All right, so that right there is different takes on some movements for the upper back with a little bit of the shoulder stuff involved. We're gonna move to some lower back stuff real quick. That's really great that we don't always know is allowed to do. We hear mixed things about don't flex with your back, don't twist with your back, do twist with your back. We're gonna do what's called, you can reference it, something similar to a Jefferson curl. If you're gonna reference it at all at home, take your PVC pipe. Again, you don't have to have it, you can just trace your legs, but we're gonna go down, slight bend in the knee just so you don't pull a hamstring, and you're gonna roll down one vertebrae at a time, right? One low back to upper back, down, and then slowly back up. So we're not holding a static bend. Again, if you're someone that has low back issues, you're currently getting stuff worked on, or you have a professional you're working with, this might not be the one for you. But if you have a healthy, fit back, and you've been able to do all the stuff we're doing in class, then go ahead and round through, and then round back up. Let's do this 5 more times. Should feel really nice. We're turning on all the little tiny stabilizers when we really truly try to think of it one vertebrae at a time. We're turning on all the little tiny stabilizers. There's things like multifidi and spinal muscles, semispinalis, and all these other things that we don't really care about the name, but they definitely get neglected when it comes down to some of the smaller movements. So we tend to always do big, gross movements like big, powerful, heavy deadlifts. And it's really nice to give your body a chance to roll all the way up through the range of motion it needs, especially if you don't have a back extension machine or Roman chair that Dr. Mike would probably love if we all had in our home, which maybe another day we'll go over how to makeshift one of those in your house for some back support. This is a great one to still get cueing and extension work done in your back with safe unloaded positions, okay? So that's that one. Again, you can reference something like a Jefferson curl if you want to look more into it and you don't necessarily like the way that I go through it. That's totally fine, but you can get some finer points looking that up on the Google. The next one that we're going to do for the low back, so that one involved a little bit of stretch. For that, we're going to do one for the rotation. If you have something, either an ottoman, a kettlebell handy, anything that can block your legs from twisting, that's small and easy to move around, go ahead and you're going to grab that now. And then what we're going to do with it is use it to not let us cheat with our legs and low back and hips. Okay, so let's see, probably going to be the easiest for you guys to see if I go at a bit of an angle. Okay, so you're going to place that kettlebell or ottoman or something heavy that's hard to just move. So you don't want to just put like a water glass because you're going to tip it over. Okay, but your goal is to use this as a way to tension your legs while you're side lying and kind of give you motivation to not kick your legs out and over, right? So you can use it to tension through here. Some people need to use it to tension in front, right? It's because they have a habit of rolling up and over so they don't kick their legs out. So whatever you want to do, you could even just make yourself squeeze around it so that stuff stays locked into play. It's whatever you want to do. You can have something tied up with resistance around the heel, but your goal is to keep your legs squeezed together, knees are contacted, and you have something tensioning against you so that when you twist open, right, you actually are having it hold your hips and you're trying to fight and resist and reach towards that weighted thing so that you don't come up and open with it, right? We're really trying to get that stretch from activating the lower half up. Otherwise, a lot of people will have to do really long, loosey-goosey stretches, which can actually over-torque your back. But if we do it through kicking into something with a little bit of resistance, or even, like I said, if you're someone that has to pull into it, activating through the hamstrings, whatever you need to create some resistance in your lower core so that you don't over-twist the low spine, but you still get to open up the upper half and the lower half, you can get some good rotational resistance work in. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side. So you're gonna push in, you're at that kind of anywhere from 90 degrees, 90 down. So 90 degrees in the hips and in the knees is always a safe bet, or even a little bit less slanted, that's fine. Arms are up and open, and you're reaching with that upper hand. We've done these before, right? They're similar, but a different take from an iron cross. You're used to that one. They're a little bit similar. It's also part of a take on something called a bretzel, not a pretzel, but a bretzel, that you could look up for more information and more progression if you want, okay, if you want to nerd out. But again, I'm pushing into this to not let myself open up. I'm also squeezing my legs together so that I don't slide backwards in the twist. Okay, so that should help kind of get full long body kind of rotational stretch in the transverse plane, okay? I'll let you guys finish up with that one for a few more seconds. I've been kind of using Maria as a gauge for like when she gets to do something for a little bit and then gets back up. So she is our lucky test subject for today for this one. Since again, this is a little bit more of a informational and not just free-flowing yoga style mobility video for now. So thanks Maria for that one. Okay, is there any questions on the low back twisting or any of those, or the Jefferson stretch, anything like that? Jefferson curl. Everyone good with those ones? All right. So now we're going to do our last couple, and then we'll sign off here. We started a little bit after, so I want to make sure I don't go too much further past that. Again, 30-ish minutes. Some days, if it's just one area, it might be 20 minutes. Other days, a little longer. And since this one we're getting set up, is going to go about 40. Okay, so we're going to do our hips next as our kind of last thing to focus on today. Just because, again, lots of air squats, lunges, things like that. So some of you might have seen me do this in class as well. It's one of my favorites. And it's different takes on something called shin boxes. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to sit down in an area that you kind of have your legs as if you were sitting like a little kid that sits on the ground or whatever, but you have kind of like a little bit less than a 90-degree angle in one and then in the other. For some of you, this might be really hard. You might need to put your hand down to assist. What I recommend to people when they're not as flexible through the hip or they can't sit upright through core strength, then that might be your stretch. Your mobility is to just get to this position and work towards getting yourself more upright and stretching more upright. That might be the first path of your mobility. What I also will have people do is take a towel, probably bigger than the ones that we used against the wall, but take maybe a beach towel or a pillow that you have since you guys are at home, and then roll it up, or the pillow, make it a little thicker, and you can put that under your bum on the back side so that you can actually raise up the demands of the need for mobility in the hip. So you might need to put something underneath, again, this back side of the one that's forward. You might need that kind of skewed to this side so that you're upright a little bit more. Notice it pulls on the leg a little less. It requires less external or internal rotation of your hip in order to do it when you're propped up more. And it'll allow you to actually be more comfortable and sit upright. So that might be your stretch, is to just get to this and to slowly use less and less of a prop. Okay, that could be a huge mobility help for you. If you're in this position and you're able to sit upright and you don't have a prop, again, only if you don't have a prop, because otherwise it's not worth overdoing it on the other side when you're having to rely on a prop for this one, then I would love for you to practice going up into this position right here and then coming up. Okay, so there's options that we can climb into. If you have a prop, all you're going to practice is getting upright and slow lowering your bum back down. Okay, so I'm going to do it from the side so you can see as well. So pretend if I had a prop, I use this as my prop marker. That one's going to be right under my bum, okay, on this side. My goal is to, with as little momentum as possible, sit upright and come up into that hip extension. You'll feel a stretch. And then slow lower myself back down. And it might be hard. You have to rock into it a bit. That's totally okay. This is training up that mobility through your hip. Okay, so if you need to rock into it and throw yourself forward, that's fine. If you can't get up from it, use a higher prop. And you're just working through that. Okay? If you can start to get up under good movement, and slow lower back down, so not just falling back. Then go ahead and add in, when you go up, add in kind of walking up into the front of a bit of a lunge, and then walking back down. If you can barely do this one, no judgment at all. It's very common because a lot of us have sat in chairs now for work and stuff for years, okay? So we lose some of that. That's okay. We've had knee problems, ankle problems, all sorts of stuff that might be affecting the chain. So your big thing that you can get a lot out of is just practicing getting up and down in that position. Okay, so that's a side view of it. Then you would switch to the other side. You might be really surprised that the other side you didn't need a prop at all. Then you go to the other side and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't even get my leg around, okay? If that's the case, if you can't even get to where you can sit upright with a prop, then maybe you're working on just stretching through your actual adductor muscles into an external rotation of your hip, so out this way. And then potentially you're gonna work through going through some internal rotation. So trying to push your knees and your toes towards each other. So you're purposefully activating them inward. Okay, you're gonna feel maybe even some cramping, and all you're doing is turning your toes in, right? So if you're someone that really struggles at the hip level to even sit in that position, those are some options for you, is to separately practice a little bit more of the basically adduction, so butterfly style stretch, but maybe only half. So you're getting your hip open, and then practicing internally rotating by taking your toes towards each other, knees and toes towards each other. Okay, so that might be your stretch. For those of us that were doing the actual with a prop or without, you can sit upright and you can go up into this extension. I'm gonna add one more portion for you. It's for extra internal rotation work. So you're gonna pull the back side foot up and up. You might only get to here, right? That's fine, but you're gonna pull it up. I'll show you from the side here, okay? Pulling it up, just a bit off the ground, right? If you can get it higher, go for it, okay? And again, you can use that other hand to hold you a little, or your prop, that's fine, okay? To get that up and off. These are a really big part of why a lot of people, as they age, will fall and they can't get themselves off the ground, because either they have nothing around them to pull themselves up, or they're not strong enough to pull themselves up, and their legs don't have enough mobility to actually tuck under them to get up and get off the ground, okay? So this is not only a great mobility for adding better form for your squats, helps with if you have chronic knee pain, if you know that you always feel tight when you're trying to warm up for stuff, these are great ones to throw in because they push it in the ranges of the squat that aren't dependent on your knees, your ankle, your low back, all that stuff. It's more how do they work in coordination with each other. So this would be a really good one to do. I encourage you guys to do it a lot more often than we probably do, especially when you're spending lots of time at home. You might be playing with kiddos or animals on the floor. Stuff to do would be these. If you want to look up more info on some of them and more than just the stuff that I recommended, because I kept it pretty simple, you can look up things called shin boxes, and that should be able to give you some other takes. If you want to progress it past that, feel free to message out to me because I can always give you the next level of it where you're rotating and switching back and forth. Or again, you can search for more info on progressions as it goes. But we're gonna start there because a lot of people haven't even tested out the fact that they might not be able to sit up without a prop. And that's where we're gonna start, okay? Are there any questions on that one as our last move of the day for today's session? All right, cool. Does anybody have anything else before we go, not just based on the session, but stuff they're wondering or concerned about before we stop the recording? Everybody good? All right, perfect. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay sane out there, stay healthy, wash your hands, wash everything, and make sure that you're spending some time doing these. I encourage you now, if you have another 15 minutes or so, since we're used to doing hour-long visits, when you guys come into the gym, I'd use those 15 minutes to recap on each one of these moves, spend a minute or two on each one, each side, and let yourself really feel all of these movements now that you got to see them, okay? All right, I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a good one.